The whole team at R&T is on the line today as we tackle some very interesting topics in roundtable fashion. We go through the following: why you're not a special snowflake, muscle building best practices as a client, should you use anabolic steroids or not, male and female body image, and finally, the use of food as a clutch in relationships. This is a hard-hitting episode as we go deep into topics that are often skirted over, and I know there'll be something here for everyone. I hope you enjoy this one.
So today we've got Yvonne in the building in England. Yeah, Yvonne in England.
Living in England. I like it, man.
So how have you found it?
I actually really enjoy it here.
Yeah?
Time to move up.
I really do.
When are you moving?
Yeah.
Soon. I'm actually taking Quaker oats home with me,
But not north, right? You'll be moving to London.
Yeah. No, I actually like it here, to be honest.
It's like Perth, right?
London's way too hectic. Way too hectic. So, yeah, no, it's been really good so far. Seeing the Hitman work live in person is a fucking machine. Hard to keep up. It's good, though.
You still doing it? What time are you waking up?
No, 5, right?
I got him on the 5 a.m. schedule. Don't worry, boys.
He's waking up your family at 1 a.m. then.
We got a hotel around the corner just in case. They thought we were a couple when we walked in. Oh
my God.
I dressed down, and the woman was like, "Moreland Drive. You live around the corner. What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh, my mate's here from Australia." She's like, "Oh,
mates, right?"
Twin beds, not double. Twin.
Does she have shredded glutes, Nathan?
Oh, I've definitely seen the shredded glutes.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like, go on then, show me the
Filthy.
Show me the walnuts.
Yeah. I've been trying to feed him up.
I just can't fill up.
You still
What do you stay flat?
Hey?
You just stay flat the whole year.
Pretty much. Even after yesterday, just the same. No difference, really, at all.
Did you gain any weight from yesterday's feed up?
Oh, we didn't have a scale, but no, I don't think I have. Just had a big poo, that's all.
Probably dropped a half a kilo then.
Yep. No, it's been great here, man. I love it here. Potential move on the cards, maybe.
Really? You're being serious about it?
Even with this weather?
I was just going to say the weather's crap. Why would you move here for that?
Ivan, this is our summertime.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I don't mind the weather. I like.
No, it wasn't like this time last year.
No.
No, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Don't remember it.
I don't mind the
2
cold.
weeks. We get 2 weeks of summer. Enjoy it.
Yep.
You know, it's the same as the World Cup. We're going to keep repeating last summer forever just because we had one good summer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've got the last 16, mate.
Yeah.
All right, what we're going to do today is we've got 5 topics on hand that are continuously coming up in discussion in our WhatsApp group, in our team meetings. So we thought we'll let it rip on a podcast. The 5 topics we're going to go through are, these are the titles: why you're not a special snowflake.
That's going to hurt a lot of people, isn't it?
Muscle building best practices. Should you use anabolics? Male versus female body image and comparison syndrome. And the last one, which is food and how it's used in relationships.
It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one, guys.
Go on, Ben. What do you want to start with?
Oh, we start right from the top.
Snowflake, right? Snowflake.
Let's start with the special snowflakes.
It's winter time. Winter is coming.
Yeah.
All right. Let's let it go.
All right,
give some context to why we're talking about it as well.
What we're talking about with the special snowflakes is kind of what came up in our Facebook group, where Nathan had a really, really good video post on people being worried about going too low with calories, being worried about, how much weight they'll lose, and thinking that they they in some way could defy human physiology and not lose body fat. And what we found was mostly people thought they were special snowflakes in that they needed special things with their diet, when actually what they needed to do was just work harder on either their training, their diet, their activity, or a multitude or a mix. So that's where the special snowflake thing came from.
And multiple consolidation phases on podcasts have been like, I didn't believe what my coach was saying at this point in time, but then what happened was the thing that my coach was telling me that I didn't believe happened. Oh, really? It really is it?
So it's a bit of a harsh term, but it's true. Basically, everybody likes to think that they need, these really, really unique things being done with their nutrition. But ultimately, the key word for this that Indy loves to bring up all the time is consistency, and that's what we need. Nobody's really that special when it comes to what we need to change with setup. That's where it comes from.
You're on mute, lad.
Elliot's just in the building now. He got a late invitation.
Oh,
Right.
His invitation got lost in the post.
There you go. Special snowflake.
Elliot, you got any thoughts on
Former special.
Yeah, Elliot was a real special snowflake in his prime, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Absolute special snowflake.
Perfect example of what you can become once you let go of the special snowflake.
oh wow, we've started something here.
But I think another place that it comes from is timing and circumstances as well, where a lot of people will believe that, their circumstances are very individual. They got very, very busy work lives, very, very busy family lives. And for that reason, they need a special nutrition protocol, a special training protocol. But in reality, every single other person has different individual stresses, different individual lives, and also have a different perception of how that stress in their life impacts them. And in reality, you're just like everyone else. And if you look into our R&T Facebook community group, everyone's going through basically the same thing. And unfortunately, as unfortunate as it is, there's nothing individual about it. We're all going through a lot, and we all got a lot going on. And that's pretty much where it comes from in terms of time and circumstance as well.
Beautiful.
Great. Very well said.
Ned, what's your...
I just spilled. I've not just took my top off for a reason. I've literally just spilled my water on my laptop, so I had to take it off.
I was like, this guy's in Liverpool, not in fucking Barbados right now.
Oh, sorry, mate. That's in 2 weeks. Don't get my schedule mixed up.
Nomad life has gotten to him. He thinks he's always in the sun now.
Yeah. You see how good this suntan is, though.
All right, guys. Tej, what's your thoughts on the snowflake?
On the snowflake.
Snowflake.
Love a good snowflake.
We've all got them, and yeah, it is a case of just pointing out the fact that, just like Elliot said, everybody's got different situations that they're dealing with, and it's about finding what works for you. We apply the same principles across different lifestyles. It all comes down to the same thing, the consistency of creating those habits and reapplying them every single day.
Do you know what's going to make me laugh, though? Once this podcast actually comes out, when we get a check-in and someone says, at the end of it, am I a snowflake? You can tell me.
Heard the most recent podcast.
Are you talking about me?
Are you talking about me?
And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Oh, payback. Yeah, what's your view on it then?
I work with plenty of snowflakes.
Oh man, you're calling them out there, man.
Oh boy,
They know who they are, though. They know who they are.
Don't name them here.
Payback's the biggest snowflake here, though. Mr. 7 Rep.
Snowflake.
Mr. 7 Rep Snowflake, yeah.
That's my brand, though. That's my brand. I've got to go with the brand, right? I'm with Ben. What Ben said about calories is mainly with a lot of guys who think they're very, very special, and they're like, you know what, I can't go lower than this specific weight or this specific calories. And then once they accept it, they get a transformation. So it's one of the cases, look, you're not special, you're like everyone else. And this is why now you've got a result. So what Ben said is very, very true, and applies to a lot of people, to be fair, men and women, to be fair.
Yeah, bang on. Anyone got any further thoughts on this before we move to the next question?
If you're asking if you're a snowflake, it's you.
Yeah, that's probably very true.
Oh man, there's gonna be some people just sitting there in limbo now, like, oh, should I email him? Should I not?
Do you know how many people I got? Do you know from that Facebook group video I did around the Rock Boys?
Oh yeah.
And the Giavotti, I got like 12 people saying, "Oh, I just had to recheck all my check-ins just in case I asked you how many calories are on."
Oh dear.
Probably discuss the best ways of getting yourself out of the snowflake mentality.
Okay, go on, man.
Take it away, bro.
Take it away, Elliot.
Accept that your circumstances are no different than anyone else's. Next.
Okay.
Boom. But what if they are? Yeah.
Well, then you're not a special snowflake. You don't come into that category. And then you work within the parameters you have, right? And we find ways to strategize around it. We're not going to just put you in a snowflake category and not help you out.
Snowflakes are not allowed.
If you've had some really difficult struggles, then we're going to accept and understand that. But if it's just more like, I can't do this because X, Y, and Z. Yeah, basically, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then it's probably less about snowflake and more about actually doing it. So
I think a lot of it comes down to, like you said, your perception of that stress, whether it's like, your work stress, whether it's your family, whether it's you've just now started training with us and you're thinking, fuck, I have to prep all my meals and train 3-4 times a week and get my cardio in. It's the way that you systemize your whole day on all of these things and how you perceive that stress or how you bring it down so that you can manage your routine. And that's the bit where we can help you.
Yeah, I think that's an absolute big thing. That the perception is, some people think it's really hard to do like 10,000 steps or 8,000 steps or batch cook their food. But someone else's perception of that is that's really easy. And your snowflakes are normally the people that are really, really struggling to just do the very, 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 very basic stuff that we all can do if our priorities are in the right place. And it's cutting through that bullshit of priorities to align themselves with the goals that they have will make you from a snowflake to...
What's the opposite of a snowflake?
I don't...
A sunbeam.
No, a sunbeam. Hey.
But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and if you get those competing priorities, it's about linking that the snowflake scenario, which is mostly related to getting into shape, with how it's going to help your other competing priorities. And if you can make that linking, that's when you're onto a winner, and that's when the results come flying in. Perfect. All right, let's move on. 10 minutes are up. Let's move on to the next one. What we're going to hit we'll touch on the next one. We'll just go in order. So we're going to touch on muscle building best practices. Now, what I mean by here is talking about, if you're in a muscle building phase, what do you need to be giving us in order to make the best progress with muscle building? And let's start with the resident muscle building expert, Mullah.
Oh, what up? Yes, just been dubbed. Basically, what we need is not too dissimilar to what we need when you're doing fat loss. Most people will take their foot off the gas pedal when they're going into muscle building because they get lax with it. So we need your pictures every week just so that you're in the routine of doing what you did when you were doing fat loss. The changes visually won't be as quick because muscle tissue doesn't grow that quickly. We need a weekly check-in where we can trend what's going on with your weight increase. And Nathan and I have been speaking about this, and we'll get into it in a moment, but I'll tell you a lot more on that and how that works. And then we need to see videos of how you're performing your lifts and whether the way that you do them, is with the correct tempo, whether you need to make tweaks to, ensure you're not getting injured and to ensure you're getting the most progress out of your muscle building phase. So those are the key things we need in there to measure progress.
So Ben, let's just touch on tempo while we're here. Because it's a common theme we're speaking about a lot in the Facebook group and just generally between us.
Yeah, so in terms of tempo, whilst I know we don't generally prescribe it to all of our clients, what we're looking for here is more control. So when we get these videos from clients, sometimes we see some outrageous things. And what we need is control of the working muscle. So if you're doing a chest press and the weight is moving so quickly that, basically there's no way that there can be any tension on that muscle, then we need to slow it down and then correct the form so that person can progress safely. And that's what we mean by tempo. It's just the cadence and the speed that you're doing the lift in order for you to do it effectively.
And let's touch on what you want to see with the exercise. How are you judging the execution of a lift through the video?
In what sense? What am I looking for?
To ensure that the progressive overload and the muscle building stimulus is coming in the right place.
Right. So first of all, we're looking at the training log as well, just to make sure those numbers, you are actually seeing increases in that key lift that you're looking at. But in terms of the form itself, it has to be standardized. So, if you look in our Facebook group and see any of the coaches lifting, you see that the form doesn't change if you lift 40 kilos or 50 kilos. It's always the same tempo, same control. The only thing that's changing is the effort being applied. I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any other thoughts on tempo or best muscle building practice that you want to expand on? From anyone. It doesn't have to be.
I was going to say Nathan should touch on the rule, the 1 to 2% rule.
Oh, yeah. The monthly gain.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I thought that was a secret.
Ooh, I don't know if it can come out on this podcast then.
No,
the Pandora's box is out.
Not sure, maybe. No, so effectively, the 1 to 2% rule is what we like to use as, for most people when building muscle over the, like you come out of a consolidation phase, you're in fairly decent shape and you want some targets and some things to plan the next 6 months. We know that muscle building is quite a slow process, and there's no point in gaining 1 kilo, 2 kilos a week because you're just going to get fat. So I think Ben dropped us on the hammer of like 1 to 2% on a month-to-month basis on one team meeting, and kind of we just went for it. And actually now people are getting a good ratio between that muscle building and that fat gain that you do inevitably build. And it also levels people's expectations as well, because people come out of a consolidation phase or a fat loss phase thinking that they're going to be on millions of calories, building lots and lots of muscle. Like the old question of, how many calories are going to be on when I'm in building muscle? Like 4,000. It's like,
4,000.
No, you do 10,000 steps and you train 3 times a week. You're 56 kilos. You're going to be in 2 pieces of dust instead of 1.
You've got to be consistent the whole way through. And as Nathan just said, you don't get that immediate feedback of fat loss. That gives you that visual change every single week. So being consistent with muscle building, I would say, is actually a lot more trickier from a instant gratification standpoint. So obviously reporting to your coach, giving him or her the right information in regards to videos, making sure they're actually eating enough to fuel muscle growth and not skimping on calories. I think those are some really big blocks as well that sort of get overlooked too. So
one thing go
Ben.
I was going to say one thing to consider as well. If you're gaining 1 to 2%, of that 1 to 2%, maybe a third of it is going to be muscle. So if you take a third of 1 to 2% each month, you can see why a muscle building phase is going to need to be longer than just a few weeks. You're going to need to invest good time into invest into getting some serious muscle tissue on. You won't be doing it in 8 weeks. It's gonna require time.
You can get fat shaped muscles in 8 weeks.
You can get some really big fat cells and lots of fat on you, in 8 weeks if you go and do a dirty bulk and think that you can force feed growth,
One thing to know with the muscle building phase is you can't fake or you can't fake your training in this period. Like if you don't train hard, you're gonna get found out because all you're gonna do is either get fat or stay the same. Whereas in a fat loss phase, you can kind of get away with or training, because as long as you train to maintain, the fat will come off and you'll sort of stay wherever you are in terms of muscle mass. But in a building phase, you have to be going to war at the gym. Like you got to be.
I always say to people, you leave nothing in the tank in that session.
Yeah.
Yo, I mean, if you're not
You wanna
getting
walk out in
excited,
bits,
you,
yeah.
you got to feel anxious going into the gym and think, how am I going to beat this logbook today? Like, if you don't feel that, then you're not pushing hard enough.
If you're not shitting yourself before you're in the gym, and I don't mean like literally, I mean
Wasn't a
mentally.
good pre-workout.
It wasn't a good pre-workout. No, I mean, yeah, you got to be anxious before your lift because you'll know you're pushing it then.
Actually, I had quite a few people that have come to me following a dieting phase on their own and the bulking phase of their own as well. And then we've dieted them back down and they're the same exact weight with the same exact muscle looking the exact same. And they're saying, oh, but my 12-week bulk didn't work. And I was like, but we also just spent 12 weeks of your diet working out how to actually do a dumbbell shoulder press. So I don't know whether it was your 12-week or lack of training. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, big time. Like that execution bit, that's what I was talking about with tempo. If you can't execute a lift properly and it's not going through a muscle, there's no way that that's loading or forcing any adaptation. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'll add to Nathan's point there by saying how a lot of people want to say that they want to change their programs quite quickly as well. So even in that muscle building phase, like Nathan just said, if you're spending so much time trying to learn the execution, and then all of a sudden you say you want to change your training plan, so you've got to be consistent on it. So it's also a thing of, yeah, the whole process is going to be longer to build, but also in terms of skill acquisition and learning the technique, it's not going to happen over 1 or 2 weeks. So even with that, just be patient with your program design as well and not rush to want to change things.
how often do you like to change programs, Indy?
Me? Well, I'll actually change my program probably every 3 months, if anything, or 12 weeks is the best. Yeah. I wouldn't change it much at all.
Yeah.
And there's only so much I can do to change it as well.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any muscle building clients at the moment, but obviously I'm in a muscle building phase myself. And one thing that I have to say is that, with Akash being my coach, I've had a few times over the last few months where I've been like, right, we need to trim the fat. And consistently trying to trim the fat whilst you're muscle building is going to add a hell of a long time onto that whole muscle building period. So yeah, I think it's committing yourself mentally as well to the fact that you've got to let go of the lean headspace and just really attack it from that perspective as well.
You can't trim a beard if it's not there.
Oh, man.
Breaks the fluff.
That's a quote card, mate. Yes.
Well, like you can't carve a pebble one, right? It's the same one.
Yeah.
All right, that's a nice little segue into the next one, which is, should you use anabolics?
I just love that you said segue again. It's back in the repertoire of keywords.
He forgot about it for a while, and now he's like,
I know.
segueing into the.
Let's take a deep dive, guys.
Let's dive deep into why
segue.
people want to use anabolics, because a big reason why people have program hopping or impatience in the muscle building phase is because they're exposed to so many images of people that are using steroids and using anabolics. So what are your guys' thoughts on anabolics, and should people use them?
But first of all, we can clarify that they do work.
Oh, of course,
Massive.
you're aware.
If it's illegal, it generally works. But like the reality is that the research shows that you can take it, you don't even have to train, you build muscle. But there are ramifications, and I think me and Ivan were speaking about this when we knew about the topics of today. And everyone has their own poison. Everyone has their own poison. It doesn't really matter whether it's alcohol, drugs, other drugs. Each to their own, really. And it depends how much you want that goal. Also, you want that lifestyle. It comes with you got to understand the pros and cons to it. That's my opinion. No worse than any other. Okay,
so say you're saying each to their own. So, in what sense would you say to someone, okay, you're on the right path taking them? Like, what would be the cons that you'd advise someone who's thinking about using anabolics that they need to be aware of? Because I can think of a ton more than the positives, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you want to be a professional bodybuilder, that really kind of helps. Or is because that's a level playing field, right? The negatives of a mental headspace, they're not going to be forever changes. They're never going to be something that stick around for a while. If you stop using them, you get smaller. That when you look in the mirror, that becomes an absolute issue. When you could potentially used to being 20 kilos heavier or 10 kilos heavier, and then you go back down to being a small human.
And if you don't know what you're actually getting, which a lot of the time, a lot of people who are trying to do it on their own, they don't have a doctor prescribing things for them. My opinion is, if you don't have if you're not a physique competitor, if your goals are not bodybuilding, if your goals are not to be the most juiced up person in the world, then I don't see a need for you to take any anabolics unless it is prescribed by a doctor, because you have low testosterone that's been, it's been verified by a test or whatever it is. But yeah, I think that I'll have to be with Akash that I think the cons definitely outweigh the pros, simply because, it is instant. You may get some really, really good results initially, but at the end of the day, you can get fantastic results on anabolics without even knowing how to train, not even knowing how to do anything, which doesn't teach good behaviors, or doesn't teach you how to train, doesn't teach you how to eat properly, right? Because you have a cheat code, literally. You have a cheat code to get to where you want to go. And then, as Nathan was saying, once you get off it, you don't retain those gains. You go back to a smaller human, and that in and of itself can really mess with your head and can just start this vicious cycle of, being on and off, or even worse, just on all the time.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on the anabolics. But yeah,
I think the other big thing here is if you decide you're going to take anabolics, it's not just a case of like the immediate stuff. You're manipulating your endocrinology, and you don't know what's going to happen if you're not taking regular blood tests. You don't know how it's going to affect you. So if you haven't done your research and you haven't got the right resources to do this stuff properly, you're really gambling with your health if you don't know what you're doing with it. So I can't really see the use of anyone doing it, bar, as Nathan said, your IFBB pros or bodybuilders who are all on a level playing field and have got full-blown teams helping them get to that kind of shape.
What are the effects of taking long-term anabolics, though?
Well, it's psychological and physiological. I mean, there's both things you got to consider. Psychologically, it's a lot of like body dysmorphia, body image issues, addiction, constantly striving for more and getting into more dangerous doses. But then physiologically, there's so many horror stories I've heard from it of people going on it, getting the wrong advice, getting the wrong products, and then they have problems like. They have problems with like erections, getting right sperm count, sperm quality. There's a whole host of, and then also just when they come off, like their hormones never really get back to normal, or it takes them a very long time to get back to normal. So there's a whole host of issues that can crop up. And to be honest, I've seen more people mess up on it than do well, in my opinion, and from what I've seen.
What about those are effects mainly geared around males. What about female use of them?
Well, female use is not generally like testosterone itself. Well, for mostly like physique people or whatever they're using very, very small amounts. But yeah, the side effects are very similar. Like you get masculinization, deeper voices, acne, more hair growth, irregular periods. So, whether it's male or female, is it worth it to you to have an extra 10 or 20 kilos of lean body mass, or are you more concerned with your general health and just training? That's the way I look at it.
Is you have to you take the gear, and then you have to take about 5 supplements to help you normalize on the gear, because the side effects that come with it. So you end up taking one thing, and then you got to take a supplement to counteract the other supplement, and it just becomes like it's another very expensive hobby as well.
And the thing is, it's not like you just you change one thing or add in another compound, and then you've got to go and do another blood test to see what's going on inside, or whether it's normal, come back down, gone too high, elevated. If you need to take a new supplement to manage the new thing that you're taking, so it's not worth it in my opinion.
Why? Go ahead.
When you pop, you don't stop. It's like kids in the candy store. Lots of people you see just like try different things for no apparent reason apart from the fact that they just want to try it and see how it affects their body. That's like the most dangerous thing you can do, like having a pick and mix of drugs that you put in your body. Like,
and especially when you're seeing that progress, especially when you see that progress so quickly, like, oh, if I add one more thing, it will do 10 times the amount and I'll be even better or whatever.
So what if I do this? Or what if I do that? What if I do this? Yeah, there's a deep lying reason why you're taking them in the first place. Let's just solve that so you can cut all this shit out.
Yeah,
I think the situation's improved. Though. I think we know a lot of people who use it and then they tell their stories.
Yeah,
I think it's worse, to be honest.
I'm talking about from the perspective of people know the ramifications. Someone's using it. Like, I've seen videos where saying like, "This is what's happened since I've taken it," and a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, I didn't know this." And you see loads of comments from it. So I think that situation's improved, but I still think people would always take it, regardless of what the ramifications of taking them are.
I mean, I think ultimately you're right. Whoever wants to take it, they can take it, and we shouldn't be here judging what they want to do. But yeah, the ramifications of taking it doesn't seem to be worthwhile.
Yeah, the cons outweigh the pro.
I think that's all perception based, though, right? If someone actually sees all the positives in taking gear and actually it improves the quality of their life, and in fact they want to be maybe an actor where they get paid for being in shape, or whether they want to be an elite bodybuilder and they can live a really high quality 10 to 20 years that affect the rest of their lives, in their eyes that might be improving their quality of life, and they might be like, okay, I'm happy to live, a high life from 20 years old to 35-year-old, and then maybe in the back end of my life it's not going to be as good and it might reduce my life full stop. But because if I see this as, I may not be looking at the bigger picture, but right now in the moment it's going to improve the quality of my life, then they might perceive that as pros weigh out the cons. The pros outweighing the cons. So I think it's all perception based, and I think that a lot of these stories are going to be horror stories, right? Those are the ones that are going to be highlighted. You're not going to hear much about the person who did it in a very intelligent fashion, who had a doctor, who had a team behind them, right? I mean, you do hear about bodybuilders dropping dead.
But Elliot, that's a different story, though. We said, like, if someone's got low testosterone or like they're gonna see a massive improvement in their quality of life, which for some people it can, and it's done in like a HRT, very controlled manner. I think that's a whole different ballgame than what we're talking about here. We're talking about like just random kids in the gym or random people in the gym. I want to up my gains and I want to get some. I just want to, I want to get big. So I'm going to just inject some juice. That's what I'm talking about. And that's not the more calculated method of doing it, which I think, I can see a lot of benefits for that.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And like in an uneducated fashion for people who just want to get jacked, it doesn't make sense whatsoever. And I completely agree with that. I also think that there's other people who will see it as improving the quality of their life, such as these movie stars and again, like we said, we hear bodybuilders drop dead very regularly, but there's a whole like Olympia full of these people who are all on gear, who are not dropping dead left, right, and center, right? We don't know about what happens in the back end of their lives, but you obviously the horror stories are highlighted completely, and I just think
100%,
yeah,
no, 100% agree, and they're probably doing it in a very sensible manner. Well, they're using a lot, but they're also probably taking care of all the other precautions that need to be in place. So I completely agree with you, and ultimately, like you said, it's each to their own. But we've all been around people that have used a lot of gear. I've been offered it a lot in the past as well, and we've seen the way people behave on it, and if
and off it
for them and off it, exactly, yeah. And if they want to use it and they feel good on it, fine. But I think if you are listening and you're someone who's thought about it a lot, then you should just maybe think of all the you definitely have to do it with proper guidance, and you should think about whether it's actually worth doing it.
Yeah, having
in the long run,
bigger picture in mind. Right,
yeah, because like you said, people come to rely on it and they just end up running it for like 10, 15 years because they need to maintain that image and they maintain that size. And that's probably tied up to like body image issues.
And Instagram.
Media. Yeah.
And Instagram.
Hold on, Ben.
You follow
which segues nicely into the next one.
Oh God, here we go.
You're feeding him that ammunition here. It's your own fault.
I know, you got to do it though.
Well, let's touch on this topic then of male and female body image, comparison syndrome, social media, the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly what we just said. If you what I'm like referencing with regards to like Instagram, we're all on it. We're all on social media more than ever. And you're scrolling through, and whether you're a guy or a girl, you're looking at all these physiques and bodies and thinking, wow, it's amazing. Buy this person's program, that person's program. They've just gained 20 pounds of lean muscle in the last 3 months. No, they haven't. That's bollocks. You know, so it's a hard time because you don't know who's using what, if they're on steroids, what the actual body image should look like, what's been distorted, what's been put through Adobe, all of this stuff.
Put through Adobe. I like that
Adobe, the Adobe games, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, forget Adobe. There's actual apps on iPhones where you can do that now, so you don't have to even use something like that.
Well, yeah, you do. You're right. You've got the apps that you can like spray on abs and stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean,
What? How's that working for you, Tej?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Have you not seen my Insta pictures?
That's what I mean.
Tej Fit followers doubled after that.
I do believe that there's a bigger use of using stuff like anabolics nowadays purely because of social media and how the perception that you see on there is what people define themselves as. So it's very much like, oh, you know, I'm trying to work my ass off in the gym, doing what I can to get bigger. And then there's someone here who's potentially doing something, and straight away you start thinking you're going down the route. And I think me personally, being someone who used to feel like that as well, like I look at people who are bigger in social media and doing bigger lifts, and I'm like, crap, what am I doing wrong? Is there any quick fix for me to get there? I want to be like that and comparing myself. And I definitely say for me, social media is a great tool, but there's more cons to it. And what people are putting out there is one thing, and not necessarily the actual reality of what's going on.
I think, I think we need to go back to the snowflake thing as well, is that this whole comparison syndrome is not new. It's been around for hundreds of years. As Tej said the other day, it was like on the coast, like keeping up with the Joneses. And that's what it is. It's effectively, my mum and dad bought a new car 40 years ago because the next door neighbor had a new car. Or when they had a conservatory, we got a conservatory. Or they got new plants in their garden, we got new plants in their garden. Everyone is trying to keep up with the people that are around. But now we've got access to so many people, and those 1% crew, then you're almost inferior doubles or triples or quadruples, and then therefore the disparity between what you can achieve and what you are versus what you're seeing just absolutely crucifies you.
Go on,
so much disparity. But the thing is, it started because you were able to compare yourself with people who had the same kind of lifestyle, the same environment. Everything is the factors are pretty much the same. Now you're trying to compare yourself against, as a 36-year-old woman against a 22-year-old who lives in Brazil and doesn't, makes a living doing this. It's kind of, apples versus oranges. Or even, a vegetable, because you're not even comparing the same bloody thing. It's just not, your lifestyle's different, your physiology is different, your age, obviously, everything makes a difference. Whereas before, when you were comparing yourself to the Joneses, they just lived right next door. Everything was the bloody same.
Watch her Instagram handle.
Hey, dog.
Because I'm going to Brazil in like 5 weeks.
Oh, there's loads out there. Just hit Rio.
But no, you're absolutely totally right. Spot on. You used to be able to compare yourself with the people that are in the same class as you. And I know that sounds horrible, but same social, economic culture, the same, round the corner from you, that generally can afford very much same things as you. Everyone's in the same job realm. No one's having a huge disparity. You don't live next to someone who's got a Ferrari and you're with a Citroen C4. If you live around people that have Ferraris, you've probably got one yourself, or you've got something very similar. And that's who you can compare against. But, this is just creating that massive disparity, like you said. And unfortunately, it's only going to get worse.
It's just amplified what's been about for so long, right? Isn't it? It's just the exposure to way, way more than we had before. It's the prevalence of people traveling, right? Because they see a digital nomad like yourself traveling, right? And now all of a sudden everyone wants to be an online coach and wants to travel. It's travel, yeah. We see this.
No one's putting to work, right? No one's putting to work.
It's so true though, right? Like, whereas
very
before,
true.
Like, it's not even, it wasn't even that big of a thing, There was only a certain amount of people who traveled. Now, every single person sees it and wants to do it now, right? So it's just having that exposure.
Well, Nathan, how many actual digital nomads are there? You sent me a link today.
It's so many people. 43% of the 66 million people in the US civil service all had a period of working from their laptop or home last year.
Oh, so they classify a nomad as anyone who can just work from
A
anywhere.
laptop.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but sitting in your conservatory 4 days a week probably wouldn't class as a nomad.
No.
True.
But yeah, there's so many people now. So many people.
And you always you compare yourself now to their highlight reel. You compare yourself day to day compared to someone's photo shoot that is like a blip in time for most people. And
you want to caveat that, didn't he?
But again, that's always going to be depressing, right? And it's just an unfair comparison, you know?
And then especially when you're comparing it to people on, sorry.
I was going to say that we all take like 30 pictures and then go through each and every single one of them until we find the perfect one to post. So even within that 30 seconds that you took those pictures, you could look very different from photo 1 to photo number 30. And we will post the best ones on social media. So the person who's on the other end looking through your pictures only gets to see the very best of what you've posted. So it's like Ivan said, you're comparing yourself against someone else's show reel. It's not a realistic depiction of their daily life.
I mean, like, if it's not taken on portrait mode.
I would literally know people who would like get their photo shoot pictures and pictures whilst they were lean and post those for the next year until they were in shape again. And like just had this perception that they were in shape all year round, but they're just literally reusing photos that they had when they were lean. And then once they start to prep again, they're like, oh, just documenting my prep, and then they get saved them for the next year. So it's like this illusion of being lean all year round just because you're reusing photos.
So true. What do you guys think the long-term ramifications of this increased disparity will cause?
I really like what you guys said on the podcast with Paul Carter when he was saying how there's so much more prevalence in men and their issues with like taking gear and having depression, whereas all the focus has been on females for the longest time because of pressures to be thin, pressures to be looking like people on the front of the magazines. Whereas I think obviously that the prevalence in men is even bigger now. And I thought that was a really, really interesting concept. So I think that's a clear sign of what's to come. And like David said, I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon.
So you're saying it's going to affect men more than women? Or do you think it's just going to become more men are aware of it?
Perhaps, but yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. So you'd get all of the females highlighted in the magazines and stuff, but you don't really get that as much with the men back in the day. But now, due to Instagram and due to so many people being on gear and highlighting that, then you do see that.
Go, Tej. You're going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's a lot of Insta influencers that are also trying to advocate the whole mental side of it and trying to get people a bit more resilient mentally against these other fitspos that will be posting these pictures that people do end up comparing themselves to. And it's genuinely a case of if you are following someone that makes you feel bad about yourself, unfollow them. You do not have to follow people that make you question yourself and the way that you look. It's a choice. So if you are coming across these people that make you feel like you're not enough, you by continuing to follow those people, you allow yourself to feel like that. So I think it's a key action that if that's what's happening, you unfollow those people.
Is it bad to challenge that?
In what sense?
As in, you see someone saying, well, not you are not enough, but somebody says, or you get the feeling that you could be doing more and you could change. Is that a bad thing if you action on it versus allowing it to re-trigger you multiple times?
No, you're absolutely right. If it triggers you into making positive changes to your life, then 100% that person is not making you feel bad. They're inspiring you to do better and to do more. And that's always a great thing. But if that person is doing things and making you feel, but posting things that they're doing that you're unable to do, and it's making you feel like inadequate, there's no need to follow someone like that. But if they're inspiring you to go ahead, yeah.
And that might not be the person you're following's fault, because they're probably not doing it to make you feel inadequate. It's more just that the state of mind you're in, or the space you're in, maybe you just can't handle that right now. And you just need to be more focused on yourself and finding what you need, rather than looking for someone else and letting them show you instead.
100% agree with that. I mean, it goes back to the old thing. You should really only be in competition with yourself to start with, because that way you will only ever be better than your own self. And that's what I think we should all aspire to be, better than our old versions of ourselves.
It's always you against you.
So on this, we haven't touched much on the actual topic of body image. So we talked about comparison syndrome, but what do you guys think about body image and where people are at with this and how it relates to everything we've just spoken about?
It's more messed up than it's ever been, ever. It's like, well, staying on the theme of like body image and Instagram, every like kid to adult now no longer knows how they should look. Magazines now should like depict what a man should look like, ripped year round. So no fluffy phases for growing for anyone. And unless you're Ivan and you're 6% body fat year round and you're an anomaly, that's just not going to be the case for you. So I think at this time, it's probably the worst it's ever been with the expectations on both the male and the female physique.
And I mean, even to the point where like there's a lot more of it happen now with men as well. Then I guess it's always there, but there's more of it now because of social media and other platforms like that. So definitely, as a man, for example, you're seen as your best if you've got a six pack and you're ripped. But if you've got a bit of fluff on you, you're like, you're not going to get attention and so forth. So I'd definitely say there's a lot more pressure now for men. And I would even argue and say there's more pressure on men now than women as well, of looking a certain way.
Big call. That's a big call.
I think heightism, that's a nightmare.
But Indy, would you not argue that that's for guys, that the certain way that they should look, that's been there for thousands of years? Because you
100%. I mean,
Greek
that's
gods and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's in our biology. Obviously we're meant to be the hunter gatherer. We're the alpha, so whatever how you want to say it. But it should be the case. Like, let's say just because you don't have a ripped physique doesn't mean you're anything less. As long as you're content with that perception of how you look.
I don't know, man. I've got to challenge that a little bit and just say I don't think that's the case. I think men have had it quite easy with their body image until like recently. Magazines have started to challenge it. Yeah, dad bod. Women have had it for years and years. Like,
definitely, yeah. I would
be skinnier, be slimmer,
recently changed, yeah.
Have a cake, Kardashian ass.
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely not. It's definitely more changed recently, I'd say, and not that.
I remember a time when literally Arnold Schwarzenegger had his physique out there. Men didn't feel threatened by that. It was a case of, he's an actor. He's supposed to look like that. He's got all the time in the world to look like that. But nowadays...
Inspiring. No, it's inspiring, but what Tej is saying is right. Like, most people would be like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be like, I'm going to go to the gym and get buff now.
Right. Now it's more a case of, he's got a program out, I have to follow it, and I'm going to look like this guy.
Yeah.
That's true.
How many of you guys here struggle with body image?
At one time, I'm sure all of us did. Maybe less so now, but not necessarily all the time. I think that's an evolution.
I'm currently struggling with it myself. It's not a daily thing, but it's when I was so used to being such a big size in my physique, and I just felt quite whole in myself, and I don't know the word to say, but I just felt really like there was a good energy to me, this aura. And now that I'm obviously getting leaner, I just feel so small and inadequate. But I also know at the same time that's part of the process I'm going through, and it's a very momentary thing. So
why do you feel inadequate?
No, it's just that when you've come from a place of being able to lift X amount of weight and have this kind of presence to you in size, almost kind of like maybe feel that kind of Goliath sort of strength, and then suddenly it's 180 and you're half the size you were, and you're obviously looking better, but in terms of things like strength and that kind of energy you had is gone. Well, it's not necessarily gone, it's just changed. It makes me feel like I'm not the man I was, but at the same time, I really realize what I'm doing and why I'm doing this and how it's going to benefit for me returning back to that kind of level or stage I was at before.
My question would be, do you identify with the strong guy? And
now that's changed
who you
now,
are as opposed to how much you lift.
Yeah. I mean, originally I was like, for me, like my story was obviously I never had the ripped physique, whatever, but I had a decent amount of strength, and I would use that as my kind of like, yeah, but I can lift heavier. But so that was my kind of backstory to it. But now it's like, okay, I've lost that element as well now. So what is there to me? You know, I'm just this kind of skinny dude now. But I'm like, no, you know, I've found a new level of strength within this journey as well now. But I still have the odd day where I look in the mirror, I'm thinking, man, I'm half the guy I was, but I laugh about it now and just move on. I know it's one part of the process.
So your body image better now than, you're saying your body image is better then when you were 120 odd kilos versus now?
I mean, I would say my body image is better now, 100%. Okay. Even though, like going back, I said, I feel like I've lost this aura and strength to me. I do look in the mirror now and think, mate, you're absolutely sexy. So I would say definitely. I would definitely say. Because you know what, the idea of like going down the stairs and your lower fat just hitting me every time I went down the stairs. I was like, yeah, okay. You know what? I'd rather exchange this physique for a 300 kilo deadlift any day. So yeah.
Yeah, so like that thing you talked about with the strength thing is interesting. And I think there's we've all probably been there where like on a hard bulk, we almost want to keep that bulk. And this is why a lot of guys don't want to lose body fat and they don't want to go below a certain number because they identify with that size, you know, size in a t-shirt. I mean, we all used to know, Nathan, when we used to work together, I used to wear 2 t-shirts just to pop myself out of it, right? I remember that. Yeah, what was the reason for it?
Coming out now.
Because I look better for it, right? I look better with the 2 t-shirts. I used to wear like a underlayer every single day. But I haven't done that for a long time now. But the point is, like, that is an interesting concept. What Indy's talking about there is that you're trying to like use like the big bravado to kind of cover up other stuff. And then you don't want to lose that size because then you feel like you lose that.
I remember that pink t-shirt you used to wear and it had holes in and everything. You outwore that so hard.
I'm impressed that it was pink.
No, it was a red t-shirt that had gone pink because it was
overwear.
What was your weight? 90 kilos.
From a female perspective, I obviously was very chubby and I had body image issues massively. I didn't look to lose weight and I didn't realize how bad the body image issues were until I'd actually got leaner. And now I'm in a different headspace and I've got much more self-confidence and body confidence. But being in a muscle growth phase, again, it toys with that whole perception again, because I'm like, I was very confident lean. Everything looked better on me. And now in muscle growth phase, where everything's getting a little bit more snug. And I just think, I don't love my body right now. And then you sort of go to the gym and you get a bit of a pump and you're like, oh, that's why I'm doing this. And it comes
later on.
The thing is, Ted, like when you say, like I was telling you this the other day, your tone of your email is completely different to the picture you attached. You're like, oh, I've put on so much weight. I'm so fluffy right now. And then you look at her and she's got borderline abs on that picture. And I'm like,
I know.
Just carry on. Like, you're the one person who needs that objective guidance to be told, like, no, you're fine.
I 100% agree. And this is what I mean by the fact that I've got myself to that point where I'm lean, and you think that you've got all that body confidence and self-esteem and your body image issues have gone, but I don't think they ever really go away.
I think you just identify as a different person at different sizes. So whether you're smaller or bigger, and just getting used to that and being comfortable with both.
I mean, from a female perspective in muscle growth, which a lot of our female clients are now hopefully moving into, it's a case of understanding why you are switching gears and how it will change your body And then when we recut to expose all of that lovely muscle tone that you've built, it's going to look absolutely amazing. It's not just a lean, body anymore. You're not skinny. You're building a physique. And oh my God, that physique is going to be so much sexier than when you went through your fat loss phase.
Blimey, where did you get all those terms from? You're studying and memorizing.
Like to shut up before I can pull my shit out.
He wrote it down before the podcast.
Did you say Akash was your coach?
Yeah, not think it.
She even started with switching gears. I thought, oh, wow.
Oh, do you know what? I think, and also a good relatable thing for everybody that has obviously trained before and probably part of the R&T family, is to understand that once you train and once you have an objective eye on your own physique and you see it change a little bit, you can always get leaner and you can always justify that and you can always think about it and displace that for body image issues, because you can always look in the mirror and go, oh, I could be a little leaner, I could be a little better looking, I could walk down the beach a little bit more, a little bit more lean, or I could fit into this t-shirt a little bit better. But they're just natural perspectives. You could be leaner if you wanted to, but it's just a thought process, and I think when you start the gym and when you go to the gym and you have that eye for like change, you will always think, oh, it could be a little bit bigger, it could be a little bit, smaller, it could be a little bit leaner. But that's always going to be there. I feel it's whether you act on it or you shelf it and you have that perspective that it's just a thought and you can just throw it away if you don't need it.
Yeah, it depends on how much energy it takes from you each day and how much you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a spectrum and a journey you go through. Like there'll be periods, I think earlier on in your training career, you tend to have it higher. And then as you go on, you realize how much control you have of your body. I think a lot of it goes down. And it's just a rite of passage I think a lot of people have to go through. And I've been through it myself. So I think, and I know a lot of you here have had similar in the past where it's kind of tapered more in the present.
Well, I think that's why we're all in this industry.
Because it always probably starts with that, right? It starts with insecurity. I know I started lifting because out of insecurity and body image.
Yep.
So that's how a lot of us get into the industry from that, and then it all kind of evolves from there. Right, one more topic. That one that went on for a bit, so I lost track of the time on that one. Last topic.
It was a good one, though.
That was deep.
Yeah, no, it was a good one. The last topic, and this is an interesting one here. I don't think many people have spoken about this, but food and how it's used as a clutch in relationships.
Nathan knows all
Don't start me on
Go
it.
on, Nathan. Start him.
Go on, Nate. We always talk about this.
So a lot of people are having relationships and where they got, you start in a dating situation, you go out for dinner, and that becomes something of a kind of a weekly thing, these whole, weekly dates. And people just associate that time with their relationship. And sometimes when the relationships aren't going too well, they cling upon those situations, or even if they were going really well, they look for some sort of pleasure within that environment. And then when they go and eat that food, then that becomes the association to the time that they have with their loved one or their relationship. So then actually, when you try and change someone's diet, and then you take away this weekly food with their person that they're in a relationship with, it becomes a massive issue, and people associate that with having that and not. I don't even know where I'm going with this, actually. It's just got me angry with.
It becomes their thing.
It becomes that thing.
I just think it becomes a clutch that once you take it away from them, they don't know what to do, and then it causes, they get that pressure because the other partner doesn't know how to deal with it, so they bring food into the house and want to use that as a way to regain the pleasure that they would have previously got from that weekly date. Is that what you mean?
Sorry, I missed that. Yeah.
What were you doing?
Did I just
Super angry. Yeah.
Thinking about food?
He's so pissed off. He missed it.
Oh, I
Right,
wish
Ben.
you had this on video. Oh,
Ben, you go for it. I know you have comments on this.
Nah, I know what you're saying on this one, Nathan. Basically, what you're saying is, if you take away the food, does it open up the relationship in that what is left there? Like, what do you do together if you don't have food together? And that's where the problem comes from. And then you're then discussing, oh, why are we eating this food? Why do we have to stick to this diet plan? We used to go to the restaurant and just eat whatever we wanted, blah, blah, blah. It was all built on this. So the thing that we're looking at here is, one, can you include that meal in your week, but within some parameters, or do you need to look at bigger things outside of your training and diet plan, i.e. the actual relationship you've got with someone, and, you know, speak to them openly about it and see if you can address issues.
Yeah, if there's a massive issue with you going to a restaurant and not getting 3 courses, and that being the main focal point of the whole dinner, then you're missing the point of the dinner with your person that you're in a relationship with. Food is a hedonic pathway, which means that you derive pleasure from it. And people often mistake the hedonic pathway of a relationship with the food that they're eating. You know, if you can go to a dinner, what is the issue with your partner having a pizza and you having a salad, or you having a calorie-controlled meal and your partner sitting there with their other pasta or whatever food it is? Like, it means nothing to the relationship, but actually, apart from the fact is that it's just food in front of a plate. That's what annoys me.
So,
And it's perspective, isn't it?
I've had to tell quite a few clients that you're going out to enjoy time together. It's the food is the prop for this time together that you've got with your partner. You've literally got to see it as a good thing that you're getting to spend this time with this person that you clearly, you know, have feelings for. The food isn't a part of those feelings.
Or do they?
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Controversially, it can do the opposite. It can highlight exactly what the issues are. Because if you've been using the food as a crutch and you take that away, then it does tend to put the spotlight on areas that may not be working so well for you. And you could turn that into a positive and start working on the actual relationship instead of letting the food do the talking. Or you could, sabotage yourself and the relationship by letting it be that thing between you.
And it's not only food as well, it's alcohol, right? It's like the couples, they wind down with a drink together, and all of a sudden they've got to wind down by actually talking to each other, and all of a sudden,
they're a wine
as well anymore.
So
and it's the same thing. It's not only relationships as well. I get this a lot with clients saying like, oh, it's my son's birthday. I'm like, so why do you need to eat? It's your son's birthday, right? Like, you're not there it's not a celebration of food. It's the celebration of your son's birthday, or this, all the same with weddings and stuff like that. It's like, it's a celebration. It is the celebration. It's not the food. And then I think bringing awareness to that is quite powerful. And once people realize that, they're like, oh wow.
It's more talking about social norms though as well. Like, it's not just in what we do, it's more social norms.
Yeah, for sure. But even just like direct family situations, right? If it's just your son's birthday, or if it's Mother's Day or something like that, right? And then all of a sudden they feel the need to, indulge.
Yeah.
I think it's less, that's important, but I think it's less about like your wedding or your, whatever. I think more so if your whole relationship hinges on you once a week having to go to a restaurant with your partner to do your, whatever your meal is, and that's the only thing holding it together, that's where the issue is. If you've got a social or something coming up, because loads of clients are going to ask us about this, and you're going to create a buffer and you're going to be intelligent about it, that's fine. But it's if everything in terms of your progress is hinging on date night, which is sabotaging everything, that's where you've got to address it.
Or if the whole relationship is built on food only, you have some other issues you need to take care of. If that is your only way of spending time together, then you need to have a good look at your relationship, I think. So.
But what if you're a foodie?
True.
Just like being a breathy.
That does not mean you have to binge, right? You can still make really, really delicious food within your parameters or within your calories, especially if you're a foodie, because you know how to make bland food taste really, really good.
Yeah, we've got that Archana on our RNT family Facebook group, and she uses the same ingredients as so many of our other clients, yet she manages to put together what looks like Michelin-starred bloody meals.
She's a Michelin.
She's a Michelin star.
Oh, Tej.
Oh dear.
Plug yourself in a hole.
Oops.
Well, it's a good compliment then.
She's doing her job properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I was asked on Mother's Day if I wanted to go out for a meal or if I wanted to do something else. And I was like, I'd rather go out and do something fun, like play mini golf. Your time with people socially doesn't need to be surrounded by food or dictated by food. There's so much more fun things and activities out there that you can do and that bring people together. And you get to know different sides of people outside of the whole food situation. We've become so boring in relationships, in social gatherings. It's just based around
Speak for yourself.
When I say we, I don't mean we as in the RNT family. I mean just generally the general population.
Do you not see me do Bhangra on the weekend?
That was one time.
She was gone, mate. She was gone.
So
Here's 5 things that people can do apart from food. Keep it clean. That they can do instead of going on a date night.
You killed it there.
Yeah, you got no ideas.
Take up a new activity. So like rock climbing. That's my contribution.
Yeah.
Walking dates.
Oh, I was
A
going
what?
to say walking.
Walking dates. What me and Nathan
Okay.
did the whole trip.
Travel, right? Travel.
You have to hold hands when you do it.
We tried.
I'm big on the walking dates.
Mini golf.
Mini golf, yeah, definitely.
Learning
So
a new
travel.
language.
Yeah. You can actually sit down and just have a conversation too. That usually works.
Therapy, yeah? One-to-one therapy. That is.
A counsellor then.
Nail the basics.
Got it. Go on, Indy.
No, I was just saying, I mean, just nail the basics first before anything, and that's it. And go from there.
What's the basics?
Basics is conversation,
Oh, right.
Yeah. if you can't,
I think it's what I say.
consistent indie over here. Something else, I mean, to add to it, there's so much more activities to do out there. I mean, yeah, mini golf, just stuff like that, I would say.
You got to give one more. That's 4. We haven't given 5.
Just said mini golf. I said mini golf.
Yeah, we said walking, mini golf, rock climbing. What was the other one?
Traveling. I said
Talking.
traveling.
Traveling. Okay.
Cinema is another one.
Yeah, but that's got food, hasn't it? That's the
Yeah,
problem.
so
do you?
cool. They
not
don't
really.
go to the cinema without a big box of popcorn or those rank plastic cheese nachos, and you're just like,
Just go
are
with
you
the
going to
Tupperware.
watch the movie or just eat crap?
To be fair, those nachos with those cheese on are absolutely delightful.
God.
And the pick and mix that comes with it, that costs you £25.
Best pick and mix ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, cinema wouldn't be a good one, I'd say, because you're there.
Yeah, there's a whole
Your-
don't think about food around that, yeah.
Yeah, your best worst option is a Coke Zero or a Diet Coke, and you just feel like you played yourself. So what's the
No
point?
one else takes in their own rice.
£8 Coke
That's what I would do.
I mean, I do too, Elliot. I'll take
Yeah.
my snacks with me.
I'd take, I think I'd take
You got-
snacks in with me.
You got to be Indian and pack your own popcorn, no?
Comparing prices between packs, like, you can get 4 times the amount of this at home and bargain.
If I ever go with my family, as soon as we sit down, Mum pulls out the rucksack. Out comes 4 bags of popcorn.
Like, no, we're just
Pass
on
it along.
Does your mum listen to the podcast?
Yeah, she does actually.
Oh, amazing.
She listens to it on loudspeakers as well. So
His voice.
You're in trouble, mate.
You can teach FD from all our voices in the house.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, when
One popcorn in the cinema, or
because that's the only way we'll ever be able to spend time together.
What was that? Sorry.
I said, when are we booking our group dinner? Because that's the only way that we'll ever spend any
Christmas.
time.
No, we'll do one earlier than that, Kunal.
It's got to be surrounding food, right?
Kunal's just like, fuck it, I can't be asked to see with these guys.
I'll see you in December.
actually, we went crazy golf last time. That was fun.
Yeah, that was good fun. Yeah, you
that
won
was
it.
good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, let's go away, right?
Yeah, let's do a little trip away or something.
Hey, if we're going in December, man's got not going to be able to go in December.
Man's got a wedding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nathan's right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Get me started.
I'm gonna be the
so-
priest.
In other big news, next Monday is the big relaunch.
Ooh.
So if anyone's been listening along and waiting to join the RNT family, Monday the 15th of July is the big day. So keep your eyes peeled and be ready to transform your body and change your life.
If you don't want to have date night with food, come and join us.
We're the people to do that. Any final words? We done?
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's pretty solid.
It's all good, man. For more information, please visit www.rntfitness.com and you can follow us on Instagram at rnt_fitness. Thanks for listening.